global markets helped lift the JSE, with Naspers and retailers leading gains as the U.S. markets push towards record highs. We can see it there, 1.1% up for the all share. Banks doing its fair share with financials. Gains were broad-based, as I said, with only the local banking index a little lower, but indeed in the positive with financials. Market focus this week remains on U.S. corporate earnings, but a series of economic data releases are also getting some attention. So let's pull up the mining shares and see what they did today, all in the positive. Gold mining still steaming ahead there, 2.1% up. Platinum miners also a percentage point up, and diversified miners also adding some positive numbers to the overall all share. Let's see what the commodity prices have been doing today. Gold down, platinum down, but your Brent crude oil price stubbornly still staying above that $70 mark. In fact, 0.5% up today. The local currency, well, the rand has been really, I suppose, over the past few hours, staying around that 14 rand mark to the US dollar, as opposed to some of its volatile activity we've seen of late. We'll speak to an analyst about that in a short while. So as it stands now, 14.04 to the US dollar, to the euro, 15 rand 84, and for a British pound this evening, 18 rand 32 cents. Well, for more on today's local market movements, I'm joined by Joseph Busher, MD of JM Busher Investment Group. Joseph, thanks very much for coming in. We've actually had a very good few weeks for the JSE. I mean, the first quarter was good. Today we went back into what seemingly is a very good day. Could we reach 60,000 points by, let's say, June if this current state continues?
There's always up and down, Devon, but certainly I think it does look positive. There's lots of good momentum coming through. You saw obviously what's happening in the US in terms of the reporting season for the banks, that is really looking positive. Most of the numbers for the US will come next week. The S&P, which is really broadly represent the US markets at record highs. So certainly there is massive positivity, and through momentum and Tencent, which is going to list all its offshore investments in Amsterdam Euronext, is providing another kind of liquidity and impetus to the market for investors to pick up stock.
It's interesting you mentioned the bank results in the US. Exactly why, explain to us, is there such a positive development for global markets and indeed our market?
Well, US is the biggest market. It's the biggest economy in the world. Yeah. And certainly in terms of providing funding, US banks are always leading in mergers and acquisition and advisory. I mean, here in SA, we've got all of them, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, and so on. So certainly they give an indication in terms of the developed market, how healthy the economy is, because it talks about obviously what the banks have been doing. And secondly, whether they will be able to extend more credit to businesses and certainly households.
Now, EOH really making a stunning surge today. When last did we see a ramp up like this? The CEO saying today that it continues to fight corruption, weed out rogue employees, and it's had a pretty rough time, this tech company. We understand the Microsoft saga. But what do you make of the surge today?
Well, Stephen Van Coller, I think, obviously is a very good executive, coming from Barclays, short stint at MT, and just got into the fire at EOH. And what he was trying to do is to calm the market, to say, well, internally, we've got these rogue employees and we're going to put everything in order. But I think what is important is that they're going to continue to fight. And he does mention that Microsoft also did not do the right thing. And he's looking at all the legal documents and the structures, that led to some of those issues with ENS Africa. But the most important thing is that he's reassuring, his clients, the EOH clients locally, that, it's going to be business as usual, but we're going to put measures and processes in place to ensure that the governance is at the highest level, and certainly we're going to start delivering.
And we see that response from the share price. Look at that, 55% compared to your Friday level. I mean, that's a surge, isn't it?
It's massive. It's 85 from the low, actually. 85% rise from the low. It reached over about 9, right? But remember, this is a share or a business that was really flying high in the last 4 years ago also. But I hope that, he's putting the right team together so that investors, those who decided to stay in, can start basically reducing the losses they had.
Let's talk about this packaging company, Impact. Quite popular. The Competition Commission now is pursuing it. Investors looked at it and its share price was hit a bit.
So if you look in terms of recently what has happened in SA, in terms of collusion, where companies in the same sector, they collude, how they have been hit from a share price perspective and so on. We'll go back to the World Cup, in terms of the construction companies. So here we've got New Era, which is a packaging company, and we have got Impact that understand from 1980 almost to 2015, they had agreed to say we won't compete and allocate clients to each other. Certainly, it means that I could charge whatever I want because you will not compete with me. So the Competition Commission is saying, listen, this is collusion, this is price fixing, and it's not healthy for the industry. So they're going to penalize New Era about 10% of their turnover. But most importantly for Impact, also, they were buying partial purchase of Safres, which is a Cape Town-based company for cardboard box. They're saying, well, if you buy them, even if it's partial acquisition, that also dilutes competition in the market. So the share price took 6.4 NOK, and they haven't been doing well over the last 5 years.
All right. Joseph, I've got like literally 10 seconds. I just want to find out, Rand, 1404, it's been around that area for some time. Usually we'll sit here and talk about Rand volatility. Just a few seconds, it's not the case. What's causing that?
It's really because the stability that was brought about by Moody's, although today they're talking about really that we need as a country to manage our costs, but I think that gave it a massive boost as well. And also the equity market running, certainly that is a good boost for it.
Joseph, thanks very much indeed for those
Thank
insights. Joseph Busher, MD of J.M. Busher Investment Group.